Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the FAA podcast. Was more normal football weekend this weekend in NFL, anyways. College was such a tease. It was there was one upset technically.
Yeah.
There was really three upsets, but of top 25 teams, but there's a lot of dogs that could have won, had a chance to win that did not. And I was on the losing end of many of those, betting wise. So, but yeah, we'll get into it here. Starting off with we had three games on Friday. This first game was very entertaining. I watched the entire thing. Syracuse winning in the dome 22-20 over UVA. Garrett Schrader was pretty good. 277, one pick, 66.7% completion, and then 11 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown as well. Disappointed Brandon Armstrong, 2 turnovers, but the UVA defense in the second half was outstanding. They came back, got UVA. The offense came alive in the second half, got them a 20-19 lead. And then Garrett Schrader led the Orange down the field for the game-winning field goal. But I think probably the most notable in terms of prospects for this game, Sean Tucker, not having a great game in this one. Like I said, the Cavalier defense was very good all night.
Yeah. Brennan Armstrong's one of those guys that I was kind of hoping you'd see a little bit more from. He's another one of those guys that kind of was getting some first round buzz a little bit. One of those guys that they thought could come in and kind of beef up this QB class. After a strong week one, hasn't really shown it. Some other guys have kind of stepped up into that breach a little bit, though. So it's still kind of a very strong QB class, or it's making it out to be. Sean Tucker, important guy to keep your eye on for fantasy purposes, especially in dynasty leagues. Like you said, on the ground, not a great day for him average wise and hanging onto the rock, but at least he showed what he can do in the passing game a little bit. So some promise there, some upside PPR wise.
Yeah, for sure. Keaton Thompson is an interesting player for Virginia too. He does everything, runs the ball, catches the ball. 100-yard receiving performance in this one. Oronde Gadsden the second for Syracuse, 7 catches, 107 yards there. And defensively, have to go with Syracuse defensive lineman Caleb Okechukwu. 3 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 QB hurries. Major night for him and the Orange defense. UVA covered. I did get that one. Plus 9.5. I had them at 10. And then under 54. Air Force. They came through for me a week late. Thank you, Falcons. Air Force rolling Nevada 48-20. I was scared. I had minus 24 in this game, and I was like, second week in a row on a Friday, I'm betting on Air Force, and they came through luckily in this one. It was close. They let Nevada score in the end. But yeah, they completed 1 pass, did the Air Force Falcons, out of 3 attempts. It was Ben Britton's 80-yard touchdown throw to David Cormier. So that was the leading receiver in the game. 1 catch, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Nate Cox got the start for Nevada. I know there's been a little bit of controversy there between him and I can't remember the other quarterback they have. But my guy, the guy I look to every time I watch Air Force, my guy, Brad Roberts, monster night, 20 carries, 123, 3 touchdowns. Beautiful to watch that big man roll. And Hazik Daniels he's another guy I really like from Air Force, but he was limited in this game. They did not want him to throw the ball. Usually he's fine with, but I think he had a shoulder issue, non-throwing shoulder, because I saw him come off the sideline one point in the game. He was grimacing a little bit after he threw a ball, but yeah, also limited in the running game. There was a lot more pitching and a lot more just handoffs in this game than usually see Hazik Daniels running more, but 8 carries for 37 yards for him. And then a guy I do like that is still at Nevada, even though millions of the guys left, after the coaching change, and Strong, Turner, and Dobbs all left. But Toatawa is still there, and he had a good night. 7 carries, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 17 yards. Defensively, you can go with defensive back Jaden Dedman for Nevada. 3 tackles, all of them solos, a sack, tackle for loss. Yeah, Nevada sucks.
It's tough seeing losing all that talent.
Yeah. Air Force covered, like I said, -24, over 47. Air Force by themselves. The shocker of Friday, UTEP, the Miners getting it done at home, dominating Boise State, 27-10. Gavin Hardison, stellar, 90.9%, 10 of 11, 123, 1 touchdown, 7 carries for 20 yards. But it was the running game. They absolutely just pounded and pounded and pounded the Boise State defense. Hankins there, Deion Hankins, 21 carries, 86 yards. Ronaldo Flores, 9 carries, 41, a touchdown, 2 receptions for 17 yards. And yeah, it's not the old Boise State.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad to see the collapse a little bit. We'll see if they can kind of bounce back.
Well, what they got to do to bounce back is start the freshmen. Bachmeyer needs to sit. Talon Green has to come in, and he provided a spark at the Oregon State game, running the ball. But I think if he can show that he can throw the ball effectively, I think it'll be a new dynamic for Boise State's offense and Andy Avalos there. Leading receiver in this game, Jeremiah Ballard for UTEP, 4 catches, 64 yards, a touchdown. Wide receiver Marcus Bellin for UTEP, also 1 catch, 8 yards, but he had a 47-yard punt return touchdown. That was just, I saw that. It was in the 4th quarter or whatever. It wasn't even close. Because Boise State was backed up on their 1-yard line, had to punt from there. It was a line drive to the 47-yard line, their own 47. And then it was just speed. That's all it took to get him to the end zone. It's not a far distance. So, and defensively, I'm going to go with my guy, defensive end, Praise Amewule. 1 tackle, it was a solo, and 3 QB hurries. UTEP plus 16.5, under 44.5. Saturday, number 1, Georgia, go Dogs, 39-22 over Kent State. Was not a very good game. There were a lot of moments in this game where I was just like, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? We had 3 turnovers. Stetson Bennett threw a pretty bad pick. Didn't throw any touchdowns in this game. Still was very efficient, 75%, 27-36, 272. 5 carries, 13 yards. He scored another rushing touchdown. But the offense was Brock Bowers. I mean, is Brock Bowers not? I asked my roommate this. Is Brock Bowers not in the Heisman? The man has 7 or 8 touchdowns already.
Yeah, he's absurd, man. I mean, if you built like a tight end in a lab, that's like what Brock Bowers would be. And I mean, he's on pace to be taken as high in 2024 as Kyle Pitts was. Who's another guy who's talked about as a generational talent. So, yeah, That's absurd. He can basically do whatever you want him to do in your offense.
Okay, so I overstated that. It just seems like he scores more than he has. He does only have 5 touchdowns, 3 rushing and 2 receiving. But he's scored 3 touchdowns on 3 carries.
Yeah. Well, and that still puts him on pace for like how many like touchdowns in the season? Like what, 16? Like
Yeah.
that's still absurd volume, and he's clearly the focal point for that offense.
I said that if he puts up like 60 receptions, goes over 1,000 yards, and scores 20 total touchdowns, and adds on to that, he's at 82 rushing yards right now. If he has like 300 rushing yards onto 1,000-yard receiving and 20 total touchdowns, I think he's got to at least get a seat in New York. But the man is crazy. Second play of the game, he ran for a 75-yard touchdown. So yeah, 5 catches, 60 yards, 2 carries, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. I guess the one good thing that came out of this, Kirby wanted to say, he said, we wanted to get some adversity. We got it in this game, which is good going into, they have Missouri coming up this weekend. But they got their running game going in this one. They ran for over 250 yards, well above. They were only rushing for about 192 a game. So good to see the running game. And the surprise leading ball carrier in the game, Dejon Edwards, 12 carries, 73 yards, 2 catches, 9 yards. I'm wondering if he should get more looks in the running game because he's been effective almost every time he's touched the ball. Kendall Milton and Kenny McIntosh have not. And now McIntosh, I think it's McIntosh got hurt. I can't remember if him or Milton, which one got hurt. But it'd be interesting to see if Edwards gets some more carries, especially with that injury, like you said. But props to Kent State for keeping up. Their head coach, was it Sean Edwards? Sean something. I forget his last name. But he runs a great program at Kent, even though they're 1-3. They'll play anyone anywhere, they said on the broadcast. So good day for wide receiver Devontae Walker. 7 catches, 106 yards, a touchdown. Horrible day for Ladd McConkey. Despite 6 catches for 65 yards. Fumbled it twice. Once on a muffed punt, once just on the sideline. But yeah. Defensively, linebacker Jamon Dumas Johnson. He was everywhere. Every time I saw the dogs on defense, man, it was Johnson making the tackle. 6 tackles, all of them solos. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Kent State cover plus 45, under 61.5. By the hook. There's a couple of those by the hooks in this. Number 4, Michigan, 34-27. Squeaker over Maryland. The Terps putting up a fight in the big house. And I wonder what would have happened had Talia not gotten hurt. I wasn't watching this game, but I kept up with it because I had Maryland plus 17. But yeah, Talia, 20 of 30, 207, touchdown, did throw 2 picks, 4 carries for 20 yards. JJ McCarthy has been outstanding for Michigan since he got the starting job. 18 of 26, 220, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. And I mean, Blake Corum just continues to kill everyone. 30 carries, 243 yards. That's a career high, 2 touchdowns to add on to the 5 he scored last week.
Yeah. I mean, averaging 8 yards per carry on 30 carries is absurd. And you're not going to lose a lot of games when you got a guy doing that. So, I mean, props to Maryland for keeping it close, even though Blake Corum ran all over him.
Yeah, he's getting the Derrick Henry treatment right now. until they run into Ohio State, and then then CJ Stroud throwing all over the defense, and they can't keep up running the ball.
Yeah.
Then we'll see what JJ's really made of there. But yeah, defensively, I'm going to go with Michigan defensive back Mike Sainer still, 8 tackles, 6 solos, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, pass deflection. It's all about the tight ends in the receiving game. This one.
Yeah.
Spoonmaker, Dykes, Dipray, or Depray. I'm not sure how you say that one. Maryland covered plus 17, like I said, under 66. Number 5, Clemson, 51-45 over number 21, Wake Forest in double overtime. I was pissed off about this game, man. I had Wake Forest, and Clemson is a bunch of entitled assholes. That's what happened after the game. I quickly turned to a different game, so I didn't have to listen to what Dabo had to say in his post game, because I knew it was going to be some BS.
Yeah, I've never voiced this on the show yet, but I hate Dabo Swinney, man. He's so self-righteous and kind of full of himself, and he's I don't know, he's gone out of his way to kind of just voice his opinion on some things that like don't really matter. And I agree with kind of what you're saying, is that like I feel like he's always had like a more inflated opinion of himself than anybody else does. And I mean he deserves credit for helping build up that program. That program was not relevant the way they have been in the past years. He did help build it up, but yeah, not a fan. Yeah. And at this point, I don't know how much he adds to Clemson. I mean, they have a bunch of talent. So
right. And now we're seeing it without the coordinators, Tony Elliott, Brent Venables, who were there a long, long time for Clemson. And now it's been 4 years, right? It was 2018 they won. So, it's like the fans are itching now. They haven't been back to the playoff in a couple of years now. And they're supposed to be, the team in the ACC every year, but they figure out a way to get knocked off by someone and miss the playoff. So I do got to say, I said DJ sucked. He played well in this game, but Wake Forest doesn't have a defense. So despite them getting stops that they needed to get Wake the lead, it's a shame, because like if you're Sam Hartman, he set the single game record for touchdown passes at Wake Forest. 69%, 337, 6 touchdown passes, 8 carries for 10 yards. There's nothing else you can ask the man to do to win the game except to get a touchdown and double OT to tie it. But it's kind of deflating. I was on the opposite side of this kind of deflation when I played in high school, my senior year. Sam Hartman goes out there, they score a touchdown, and it's like the next time Sam Hartman gets the ball back, they're tied again because defense can't stop anyone. I was on the opposite side, though, in high school. Our defense was stopping them every time, and then our freaking offense wasn't scoring, and we were coming back out. And it's like we're still tied. How are we still tied? Or we're down now because we let up like one time. Sorry to anyone, if anyone listens that played with me, but yeah. Will Shipley had a good game, 20 carries, 104 yards, touchdown on the ground, 3 catches, 15 yards for Clemson there. Jamal Banks for Wake Forest, 6 catches, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. Donovan Green for Wake also scored 2 touchdowns, 2 catches, 53 yards. And then for Clemson, tight end Davis Allen, 4 catches, 36 yards. He scored twice as well. And some of them were just like the ball was just thrown up, and it's 6'4" versus 5'10", and I mean, there was the one touchdown. I didn't understand how the DB didn't make the play. All you got to do is use that hand to wrap the hip, and come in with the other hand to knock it away. I mean, so okay, he's bigger. All right, make a play, but it's fine. Yeah, defensive tackle Tyler Davis is my defensive player of the game for Clemson. 6 tackles, 3 solos, 1.5 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection. He's on the draft radar for sure. Wake Forest did cover though, plus 7.5, over 58 easily. Number 14, Penn State, 33-14 over Central Michigan. This is another one where top 25 teams struggled early. Anyways, Central Michigan got it tied up at 14 at one point. Penn State rolled after that in the second half. Sean Clifford was stellar again, 64.7%, 217, 3 passing touchdowns, 5 carries, 23 yards on a rushing touchdown as well. The defense, especially in the second half, was great. And then Nick Singleton really wasn't the guy that produced on the ground, but it was their other freshman, Katron Allen, 13 carries, 111 yards and a touchdown, 1 catch for 7 yards. He was the go-to guy in this game on the ground. So it's nice. It's nice to have other options, even though I love Nick Singleton. But Katron Allen is a great true freshman in his own right, that can run very effectively. And then the 100-yard receiver in this game, wide receiver Carlos Carrier for the Chippewas, 11 catches, 111 yards, and also fumbled once. Tight end Brenton Strange for Penn State, 5 carries, 42 yards. He scored 2 touchdowns. And then defensively, I'm going to go with defensive end Danny Dennis Sutton, Penn State, 2 tackles, both of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection. Do got to mention, though, my guy, Joey Porter Jr., with 3 pass deflections. And his opposite guy, Kalen King, had a great day, 4 pass deflections for him as well.
Yeah. Joey Porter Jr. has played about as well out of the gate here as any of the top draft prospects have. So far, I haven't seen the needle move yet on him. I don't know if that's just because maybe Penn State hasn't yet been in a top 15 matchup yet. But I'm telling you right now, for me, at least right now, Joey Porter's a top 15 lock. And if he keeps playing like that, I think he will be.
Yeah. And I mean, they really only played one difficult opponent. That was Purdue, week 1 on a freaking Thursday or whatever it was, Friday, whatever. And while Charlie Jones went crazy in that game, he didn't when he faced Joey Porter. When he was matched up against Joey Porter, it was a different game.
And they tested Joey Porter, but the only times they tested him, which was few, clamped. So
yeah, and Joey Porter made the plays to get Penn State the ball back to let Sean Clifford roll him down the field for that game-winning touchdown. Brenton Strange, though, I feel like this is probably a Penn State bias, but I feel like Brenton Strange has to be climbing up the tight end ranks, though. I mean, he consistently makes plays. He has the size. He's not fast, but I'm making a point for Brenton Strange in the draft next year. Central Michigan cover plus 28, under 61.5. Number 17, Baylor getting it done in Ames. Over Iowa State, 31-24. Yeah. Hunter Deckers, you can't turn the ball over, bud. That's how you lose the game. I didn't watch this game, but I'm assuming that's why they lost, was the turnovers. But yeah, Deckers 63.9%, 284, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Blake Shapen, another quarterback that I said sucks, and had a good day. 73.1%, 238, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Gyrell Brock for Iowa State, he scored twice, 14 carries, 73 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 17 yards, and another touchdown there. And then 100-yard receiver here, wide receiver Jalen Noel for Iowa State, 7 catches, 120 yards. You got us on that one. Defensively, gonna go with Baylor linebacker. I want to go with Bryson Jackson, but because of the versatility, I'm gonna go with Dylan Doyle. 2 tackles, 1 solo, a half a tackle for loss, and he had a 1-yard receiving touchdown on offense. Baylor covered. They were the underdogs in this one, plus 2.5. Over 45. Number 24, Pitt, 45-24 over URI. Keaton Slovis was not good. But not enough yards. 74.1%, 189 yards. But what did I tell you? What did I tell you had to happen? And it did happen. Israel Bonaconda, man, 19 carries, 177 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 19-yard reception. He's the dude.
Like, it's funny, man. Like, obviously, when you're scouting like any player, but I feel like especially running backs, like, sure, there's plenty that goes into it, but at the like sometimes you can just watch a guy and be like, yeah, like he's like you can just see, like he's special. Like it doesn't take much analysis to just say like, yeah, he's that dude. Yeah, I mean, last year it was Kenneth Walker. A couple years ago it was, or for a while for the Badgers it was Jonathan Taylor, where you're just like, yeah, this guy just really can't lose with him. Is he draft eligible?
I believe so. I believe he's a junior. Yeah, he's a junior. I don't know if it's a red shirt or whatever, but yeah, I mean, he has 83 rushes for 479 yards and 6 touchdowns, averaging 5.8 yards per carry through 4 games. Pretty decent.
Yeah, it's all right.
Running back Marcus DeShields for Rhode Island, 10 carries, 82 yards. He scored 2 touchdowns. Leading receiver Katero Summers for URI, 4 catches, 55 yards. And then defensively, I'm going to go with defensive back MJ Devonshire for Pitt, 4 tackles, 2 solos, a pass deflection, and he had a 82-yard punt return touchdown. URI covered plus 32.5, over 55. See, dude, it's all like out of the Saturday games we've gone through so far, no favorite has covered until this one. Kansas 35-27 over Duke. The Jayhawks 4-0, first time since I believe 2009. So it's been a while for Kansas football, but they got it back. Jalen Daniels was stellar. I hate that he was stellar. I was on Duke spread. But Jalen Daniels, 82.6%, 324, 4 touchdowns, 11 carries, 83 yards, another touchdown. Riley Leonard, it's not like you didn't try. 68.6%, 324, touchdown, 10 carries, 54 yards. Big long touchdown for running back Daniel Heshaw Jr. for KU, 10 carries, 61 yards, and a 73-yard receiving touchdown. And Jalen Calhoun, your leading receiver for the Blue Devils, 5 catches, 93 yards, a touchdown. Defensively, I'm going with Kansas. Corner Romello Dotson, 9 tackles, 8 solos, a tackle for loss, 2 pass deflections. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
on Duke +7. Landed 8. It was just a great time watching that one lose.
Yeah. Yeah. Kansas 4-0. It's crazy, man. Shout out Lance Leopold, man. Former UW Whitewater Warhawk great,
Yeah.
leading them to all those D3 championships. Dude's won everywhere he's been.
Yeah, Kansas covered -7, under 65.5. I was also on the losing end of this one. I had Florida money line. Number 11, Tennessee, 38-33 over number 20, Florida. This is in Knoxville, a Rocky Top. And the quarterback is quarterback duel. Anthony Richardson, 54.5%, terrible percentage. But he made the most of it. 453 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 17 carries, 62 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a fumble. And then quarterback Hendon Hooker, 78.6%, 349, 2 touchdowns, 13 carries, 112 yards, another rushing touchdown, and he also had a fumble. But that was the story of the game, is the quarterbacks, and Richardson turned it over one more time than Hooker did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was quite the offensive performance from those two QBs, 2 guys who are very much involved in the 23 NFL draft discourse. I said, I told you on Saturday, I was like, look, Anthony Richardson has no idea if he wants to be a top prospect or not, and it's interesting because, like I've said before, I think he benefits from the more time, he puts on tape, the better. At the same time, though, man, like with the amount of tools he has, there's no doubt in my mind that a team would take him in the first round right now, as is, because he's basically like a souped up Malik Willis. Like, he's 6'4", 240 Malik Willis, where there's just so much raw physical talent that you have to work with and can hopefully develop. So, man, each game, man, he's probably, for me, the most intriguing draft prospect right now, just because, as we've talked about, he's been so hot and cold, and you don't know what you're going to get from him. But Hendon Hooker is another guy, too, that I think teams ought to be looking at. Another guy that, there might be a little bit of inconsistencies, but he's been very good this season, showed a lot of flashes last season. So, yeah.
Jabari Small, good game for him. 19 carries, 90 yards, touchdown, 3 catches, 32 yards, and another score for the Vols. A couple 100-yard receivers for Florida, 1 for Tennessee. Justin Shorter, 7 catches, 155. Ricky Pearsall, 5 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown for the Gators. Tennessee, Brew McCoy, 5 catches, 102 yards, and another touchdown there. And defensively, you got to go with Florida linebacker Amari Burney, 8 tackles, 7 solos, 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss. 4 QB hurries for Byron Young, though. I mentioned him as a draft prospect a couple weeks ago as well. Florida covered +11 over 62. And the way that Florida covered was absolutely crazy. They scored a touchdown. I thought I had prayers. I had put some prayers up when Florida recovered the onside kick. That's the dumbest rule. I don't know if it's in the NFL, if it's the same thing or not. I don't think so. But the stupidest rule in college football, at the least, that you cannot advance an onside kick as the kicking team. It makes no sense. Why can you advance it as the receiving team when you can't as the kicking team? That doesn't make sense. That's unfair. That's a That's an equal protection claim, right? Members of the same class being discriminated against each other.
Wow. That Mull's education just at work in live real time.
And they're in similar situations.
Yep.
But yeah. Upset. Texas Tech 37-34 over number 22 Texas in Lubbock in overtime. Donovan Smith, I mentioned when Texas Tech played NC State last week that's why I picked Texas Tech, because Smith looked pretty good against BYU. They lost that game, but lost to NC State last week. But they got the win this one. Donovan Smith, 67.9%, 331, 2 touchdowns, 15 carries, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Again, though, I was confused. I didn't get to see this game, but I did hear on College Game Day, Quinn Ewers was available. They just didn't know if he was going to play. He did not. Hudson Card played the entire game. Wasn't enough to win. 66.7%, 277, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 3 carries, 24 yards. Bijan had a 100-yard day. Bijan Robinson, 16 carries, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 22-yard reception. But the fumble is key. Bijan never fumbles, right? And he fumbled in the worst possible time. In overtime, Bijan fumbles the ball. Texas Tech recovers. They kick a game-winning field goal. Red Raiders win. That's how this game went.
Yeah. Yeah, the Big 12 has been fun, man, this year, because there's a lot of teams that are competitive. Like, almost every team in that conference right now can beat the other team on any given Saturday, which is kind of exciting and fun to watch.
Bro, when we get Kansas State Big 12 title game, that's gonna be crazy.
Electric.
Miles Price, leading receiver in this one for Texas Tech, 13 catches, 98 yards there. And defensively, not many stats. So I'm going to go with Texas defensive back Jade Barron, 9 tackles, 5 solos, and 2 tackles for loss. Texas Tech +7, over 60.5. This was the big one. This was so Texas and Miami are both back. Yeah, back to being bad. Mid Tennessee 45-31 over number 25 Miami in Coral Gables. Chase Cunningham, what a game for that man. 64% completion, 408 yards, 3 touchdowns, a pick, 9 carries, 29 yards, a touchdown. I don't know if Van Dyke got pulled or if he got hurt. Didn't see the game. But he didn't play the entire game. And I'm losing my $10. I've already given my $10 up. Or maybe it was only 5. Whatever it was that I put on Tyler Van Dyke to win the Heisman is already accounted for as a net loss. But yeah, he has been absolutely trash this season. And Miami has as well. But Mid Tennessee, I don't know if you saw the tweet from Field Yates. Well, for one, this is Mid Tennessee's first ever AP poll victory. They've never beaten a ranked team. And second of all, I don't know if this is true. I didn't fact check, but Field Yates tweeted out after this went final. He said, Mid Tennessee is now 3-0 all time against Miami.
Makes no sense.
That's crazy. Do I know when those games were? No. Probably in like in 1960.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Miami's terrible.
Yeah, I think they were overhyped coming in. New coach. Van Dyke, who was billed as, a first round prospect, that is dead on arrival. Yeah. A lot of optimism for them going forward, but yeah, it's not this year.
All right, so here you go. The other two games that Mid Tennessee beat Miami. November 14th, 1931. Mid Tennessee beat them 25-0. And then November 11th, 1932. Mid Tennessee beat them 7-0. So at least Miami scored this time.
Yeah. Bring the rivalry back. Was the forward pass even allowed then? Had that developed at that point?
1930s, man. Good times then. Yeah, DJ England Chisholm, leading receiver in this game for Mid Tennessee. 2 catches, 169 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's a great average. 84.5 per catch.
I want to know when the last time that's ever happened. I mean, that's got to be a record, right? Like highest average yards per catch in a game.
Yeah, because he scored on a 71-yarder and a 98-yarder.
I love that. And he didn't do anything else. He was like, look, I did enough. That's more than enough.
Yeah.
You guys can handle the rest.
I'd sit after that stat line too. Also, his teammate, wide receiver Jalen Lane, 4 catches, 130 yards. For Miami, wide receiver Keyshawn Smith, 4 catches, 81 yards, and a 91-yard kick return touchdown. And then it was literally just long touchdowns by Mid Tennessee, because then you have Elijah Metcalf, 69-yard touchdown reception. That's all he did in the game. So, defensively have to go with defensive tackle Zaylen Wood. How much more can you do? 2 tackles, both of them solos. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and the big man had a 15-yard pick six. That's how the day went for Tyler Van Dyke. That's how it started, actually. That was in the first quarter. Mid Tennessee plus 25.5, over 53.5 easily. This is the game. I tried to tell people JMU was going to go into Boone, North Carolina and beat Appalachian State. This just means James Madison is better than Texas A&M.
Do it. Hang the banner.
Bro, I'm telling you, James Madison came into the FBS with the right attitude, and they came in at the right time. Appalachian State is not what they used to be. They're still very, very good. But look, this was a 28-3 game. The vaunted score of 28-3 happened in this game. And I wish I would have had money in my betting account to live bet JMU, because they probably would have been at least plus 1,000. I turned the game off because I was like, James Madison getting killed. And I had to watch a different game that I thought I actually had a chance in. Didn't end up winning that one either. But yeah, I started watching the Troy game against Marshall instead, which actually, no, I did win the Troy game. But yeah, Todd Centeio, the resiliency, him and Kalen Black. Todd Centeio, 57.1%, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, 18 carries, 61 yards, touchdown, and a fumble. Kalen Black, 18 carries, 85 yards, a touchdown, 123-yard receiving touchdown as well.
This is incredible. I don't know if you saw my jaw drop, but I had no idea that this result happened. And when I saw this is incredible, it was time to pay the piper for Appalachian State. This team felt like they had a horseshoe up their ass with that game winner against Troy. And James, man, going in there into that environment in your first year in the FBS.
James Madison's going to win the Sun Belt. I mean, And the crazy thing is they need to realign their divisions in the Sun Belt because it's ridiculous. I forget what I think they do East and West in the Sun Belt divisions. Which, makes sense geographically, but when it doesn't make sense competitively, I mean, come on. Bro, the East is just ridiculous. Coastal, James Madison, Appalachian State. Old Dominion is good this year, people. They're 2-2.
Just like NCAA 14, baby.
And 1-0 in conference play in their first year in the Sun Belt as well. So, they have a 3-1 team in the Western Division, which is South Alabama, and they are actually pretty good this year too. The couple of games I've watched of USA. But who knows? ULM might be good this year. They just beat Louisiana. So I don't know about the West, but I'd have to say it's kind of like how the Big Ten is, where the East is going to win every year anyways. So the West gets a participation trophy for going to the conference championship game. But yeah, that division is just crazy with Coastal, JMU, and App State. Anyways, yeah. Receiving wise, Reggie Brown, your leading receiver in this game, 4 catches, 81 yards. And defensively, I'm going to go with App State's linebacker, Nick Hampton, 5 tackles, 3 solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, a pass deflection, 2 QB hurries. He is a guy that I would pay attention to day 3 of next year. I believe he's draft eligible. JMU plus 6.5 over 57. Number 15, Oregon, 44-41 over Washington State. Should have never happened. I mean, God, this was one of the ones I was talking about at the beginning. It's just like, bro, Washington State had them. They had them. They were down. Bo Nix threw a pick 6, a 98-yard pick 6. And they were there. They just had to keep smashing them. And they didn't. Cam Ward threw a couple picks. And the score looked better than it was at the end because he threw the pick 6 and Oregon went up 2 scores, and then they scored late for bettors purposes. Everyone with Oregon minus 6.5 just absolutely hated themselves the rest of the day because Washington State scored on the last play of the game. But Bo Nix, resiliency, 75% completion, 428, 3 touchdowns, a pick, 6 carries, 30 yards. Might be Bo Nix's best passing performance of his college career, really. I mean, he ran for 3 touchdowns last week, but his passing numbers weren't that good. They did have a sign. Someone in the stands had a sign of Bo Picks, which I agreed with, but he did only throw 1, even though it did end up for points on the other side. But Cam Ward, 77.1%, 375, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a rushing touchdown. Yeah, I mean, Cam Ward is a guy, you're talking about quarterbacks that could sneak up the boards and possibly strengthen the depth of the QB class next year. I really like Cam Ward.
Yeah. He was really fun to watch at Incarnate Word, right? The Incarnate Word transfer.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he was on boards even before he decided to transfer to Washington State. So it's very nice that we're going to get some film for him against FBS competition. And he's looked good. I feel much better about the loss to Washington State as a Badger fan, knowing that they're pretty competitive and that he's kind of made the transition to the FBS very well. So yeah, Cameron Ward, definitely a guy to keep your eye
on. Bucky Irving, leading rusher in the game, 11 carries, 81 yards, 5 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown. Also threw a pass for 18 yards. Nakia Watson did not have a great game. 12 carries, 36 yards, a touchdown, 8 receptions for 68 yards. And then Jordan James ran 3 times for 0 yards, but he did score a touchdown. Troy Franklin, you're the leading receiver in this one for Oregon. 5 catches, 137 yards, a touchdown, and a lot of defensive stats. Got to go with the 2 guys with the pick sixes, though. Linebacker Mase Funa for Oregon, 4 tackles, a half tackle for loss, and a 27-yard pick six. And then linebacker Francisco Nawagala, 3 tackles, 2 solos, a QB hurry, and a 95-yard pick six. Washington State covered plus 6.5, over 57.5 easily. Number 16, Ole Miss, 35-27 over Tulsa. Again, bro, Jackson Dart, like, Ole Miss is the biggest fraud in the top 25.
Yeah.
They have won almost all of their games close, except for, I think, one they played against FCS team, and they blew them out. But Jackson Dart's not having good performances, and I'm just waiting for them to, play Alabama, and he just absolutely gets crushed.
Well, I mean, they play Kentucky, right? This weekend.
Is that who they play? I haven't looked at the slate for this
I
weekend
think so.
yet.
I know they play somebody that's getting hyped up. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about it on the show before where it just hasn't looked right yet between him and Lane Kiffin. Guy's talented, man. Jackson Dart is talented. I think, again, it's just that case of, like, he's a young dude. And, like, I think we get spoiled a lot of times with, like, the Caleb Williams and the Bryce Youngs of the world. But, like, the reality is 99.9% of young quarterbacks, no matter highly touted or talented they are, they need some time to develop. And I think you see that with Ole Miss and Jackson Dart. And I agree. I think that once SEC play kind of ramps up here, you're going to see them out of the AP poll.
Yeah. So yeah, they're 2 big wins were over Central Arkansas 59-3 and Georgia Tech 42-0, who just fired their coach. Somehow though, they're at home facing Kentucky this weekend, and Ole Miss is a 6.5-point favorite. So yeah, don't know what the bookmakers know that we don't, but we'll talk about that on Friday.
Well, we don't even need to wait till then. That's probably the easiest money you're gonna make. Mortgage the house.
But yeah, Jackson Dart did have a good rushing day, 13 carries, 116 yards. Wonder if they're gonna swing that more towards the Matt Corral style offense where you use the quarterback run a lot. Quinshon Judkins helped them out a lot, though. 27 carries, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, a fumble, and a 5-yard reception. Malik Heath, your leading receiver for Ole Miss, 4 catches, 75 yards, a touchdown. Isaiah Epps, wide receiver for Tulsa, 4 receptions, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns there. And then defensively, I don't know who I want to go with. Probably linebacker Austin Keys for Ole Miss, 7 tackles, a half tackle for loss, 3 QB hurries. Tulsa cover plus 21, under 66.5. Here, speaking of Kentucky, number 8, Kentucky, 31-23 over NIU. Another top 25 team struggling. This one was in Lexington, too, so it's not like it was on the road. But Will Levis, man, continues to be stellar. 69.2%, 303, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. I was surprised Rocky Lombardi didn't play in this game. I don't know if he's hurt. But the freshman, Ethan Hampton, got the start for the Huskies here. 52%, 196, 1 touchdown. And then Tavion Robinson for Kentucky, 7 catches, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. Barian Brown for Kentucky, wide receiver, 4 catches, 102 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then NIU tight end Tristan Tews. Tews. I don't know if that's how you say it. 6 catches, 37 yards, 2 touchdowns there. NIU's wide receiver Shamar Thornton, 1 catch for 7 yards, but he did throw a 3-yard touchdown So yeah, I think Kentucky's it's going to be a big game when they face Georgia.
Mm. Yeah, and this final score here, I think, is probably what the odds makers are looking at when they're making the odds for the upcoming Ole Miss game. But like look at the stat line between Will Levis and Jackson Dart. Will Levis has played exceptional this season. I didn't think he was a top 10 prospect coming into the season. I think he had more to show, but he's shown it. And I think he is that guy right now. If draft were to happen tomorrow, he'd be a top 10 pick. And I like Kentucky's defense more than I like Ole Miss's, that's for sure. So, yeah, I don't know where that odd is coming from, to be honest.
Yeah. And what's scary for me being a Georgia fan, we have to go to Lexington November 19th, second to last week of the regular season.
Yeah, that game is going to be unreal. And Kentucky was one of the teams why I was a little nervous about picking Georgia to make the CFP, because them, Tennessee, and Florida felt like teams that kind of this year, like they could just, they could kind of play with anybody. And we've seen that so far from Kentucky, from all three of those teams, really, with Florida's win over Utah, even though that seems a little less likely. But I feel better about Georgia since, how they've played. I think their biggest test will be Kentucky. But I think right now, they have plenty firepower to defend that title.
And defensively, I'm going to go with NIU defensive tackle Devontae O'Malley. 5 tackles, 3 solos, a half a sack, 1.5 tackles for loss. NIU covered plus 26.5, over 53.5. By the hook. Number 23, Texas A&M, the upset, 23-21 over number 10, Arkansas. God, dude, I live bet on Arkansas money line plus 160. And I mean, we had it. It's just the worst. I have never seen anything like how this game lost, how Arkansas lost. To hit the top of the goalpost and bounce out, I just, again, it's something I've never witnessed. Just crazy. Granted, Texas A&M would have had enough time to still go down and probably get their own field goal to win the game. But yeah, I mean, Arkansas should have at least had a chance to win this game if that just unprecedented play doesn't happen.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch this game, but this is kind of a fun matchup. It was a fun matchup last year, really close this year. KJ Jefferson, man, is just fun to watch. He's another one of those guys where, like, I don't know where he stands as an NFL prospect. I think at this point he deserves to get some looks as kind of like a day 3 kind of toolsy guy if you want to use them in some packages. But just period, I think he's a fun guy to watch.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in terms of pro potential for KJ. There's a lot to ask for in terms of his passing. He hasn't really progressed as a passer. Elite runner in the mold of a Cam Newton, where he's just massive and he can run downhill and just roll over defenders. But the arm strength is there for sure. It's just the accuracy and reading defenses, I think, is what he struggles at. But yeah, I mean, he had another 100-yard rushing game, 18 carries, 105 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. Max Johnson played decently, but he got helped out. The defense was really good for A&M most of the game, as it has been all year. That's the crazy thing about A&M. They probably have a top 10 at the very worst defense in the country. I mean, their defense is fantastic. It's just they don't have a quarterback that can help them out. And luckily in this game, they got a great game from Devin Achane. 19 carries, 159 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches for 15 yards as well. Anias Smith got hurt, their number 1 receiver. So got to track that one. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good win for Jimbo. And again, it was a fluky win though. I cannot get over. Did you see the highlight though of the kick?
I think I did. Dude,
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
How you hit that spot is I don't know.
Yeah. I believe Smith is out for the year too.
Okay.
I saw that. So that's also not going to help out the quarterback play. And it's unfortunate for A&M, like you said, their defense is incredible. And they've recruited insanely well the last few seasons. But if you don't have that quarterback position locked up, it's just not going to matter for you.
Yeah. Defensively, I got to go with defensive back Damani Richardson for A&M. 6 tackles, a solo, a pass deflection, and an 82-yard fumble return for a touchdown, which was a crazy play in its own right. KJ fumbled, and some other A&M player picked it up, started running, was about to get tackled by an Arkansas player. Richardson runs in. The other player hands Richardson the ball, and Richardson just houses it. It's crazy. It reminded me of there was a play. I don't know who intercepted it, but it reminded me, I believe, the Ravens with Ed Reed. I believe someone else picked the ball off and they flipped it to Ed Reed, and Ed Reed took it to the house. That play immediately popped into my head. But yeah, it's crazy. A&M -2 pushed, under 51. Number 2, Alabama crushing Vanderbilt 55-3. Bryce Young, great again, 69.4%. 385, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. So yeah, that's all.
He's good.
That's what we need to say. It's Demarion Miller, he scored twice, 9 carries, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 catch for -1 yard. And wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks for Bama, 6 catches, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns. Defensively, Will Anderson Jr. finally on our board here. 5 tackles, 3 solos, 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss.
Yeah. Felt like the coming out party a little bit. Obviously, Will Anderson, from what he's done, is already a top 5 lock. Probably the best prospect in the draft. But he's kind of quiet in terms of the sack numbers. Not anymore. There he is. It's only a matter of time.
Bama covered -40.5, under 60.5. They couldn't get. They needed a touchdown from Vandy instead of a field goal. And number 3, Ohio State crushing Wisconsin. I knew this was coming. I told you on Friday it was coming.
Oh,
52-21. Yeah, CJ Stroud, 63%, 281, 5 touchdowns, a pick. It was a blackout at Ohio State, a night game. Wisconsin had no chance.
No shot, dude. I don't know any Wisconsin fan who expected us to be competitive in this game. The only redeeming quality is, again, our running back, Braylon Allen. Great game. Doesn't matter because we can't. There's no passing offense ever. And again, it's going to keep you competitive. Now, like Ohio State is in a tier of programs that literally are by themselves like every year. So like it's not a surprise. Just the talent gap is just too insanely wide. But at the same time, like Wisconsin's got to break its friggin' tendency, man. Of all the sports teams that I follow and am a fan of, somehow the Badgers have always made me mad the most because it's Einstein's definition of insanity, which is doing the same exact thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Like there will be years where our offensive line is insane and the running game is great and it's great. We'll win the Big Ten West and, we'll make a New Year's Six bowl game. But we'll just get housed by Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. There's not a, playoff berth ever in reach because, again, you're one-dimensional.
I think I need to for Friday's show go back and clip your reaction to the Big Ten preview show where I said Minnesota is going to win the Big Ten West.
Well,
and no one believed me. And
no, I mean, I felt like besides the Badgers, Minnesota was definitely up there, but it feels like easily now it's Minnesota. I mean,
yeah, they just crushed Michigan State this weekend.
Yeah.
In East Lansing too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, Braylon Allen, 23 carries, 165 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 6 yards. He can do everything. He threw a 10-yard pass as well. So just line him up.
You know what? Put him at quarterback.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it, just lean in. Let's open up the Army playbook, triple option. I don't care anymore. I just don't want to see Graham Mertz throw the football anymore.
200-yard rushers for Ohio State. Travion Henderson, 21 carries, 121 yards. Meion Williams, 11 carries, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, 6 catches, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. Is he becoming the number one at Ohio State? Because it's been him every time, not Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't know if he's still hurt or what the heck happened.
Yeah, he is. In fact, I actually screenshot. So, because I was curious, I looked up, I was like, what's going on with Jackson Smith and Jigba? And I found out prior to this, because I knew it was going to come when we were talking about it. All right. Hamstring injury obviously suffered in week 1 against Notre Dame. So they only had 15 snaps week 1. They kept him out for week 2 against Arkansas State. He returned against Toledo, but caught just 2 passes, and then he didn't play at all in the second half. So they pulled him in the second half. And then he didn't play in this game. So it's just a matter of the injury, and he just hasn't gotten the snaps. I'm still a full believer in Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's a great talent. He's just got to get healthy. And the minute he gets healthy, who's stopping Ohio State in the Big Ten? Nobody.
Penn State. Look.
We're gonna see. But
yeah, and it's in Happy Valley. I always say every other year we have a chance, because every other year we get Ohio State at home, right? Every time it's in Happy Valley, Penn State has a chance. Yeah. And this year specifically, Penn State has one of the best secondaries in college football. I think out of all the Big Ten teams, Penn State has the secondary to hold up against the Ohio State receivers.
It's bold.
You need to be biased, but it's fine.
It is, yeah.
I'm gonna pick them when the next comes. So
the only thing I'll say to that is Sean Clifford. I don't see him out CJ Strouding.
What does Ohio State have on defense? Nothing. They haven't played an offense yet.
Yeah.
So it's going to be high. I don't know. It could be high scoring, could be not. We'll see. That game's in a while. But yeah, Julian Fleming being the fourth wide receiver if JSN comes back, that'd be crazy. But yeah, Cade Stover, tight end for Ohio State, 4 catches, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns in this one. And then defensively, I'm going to go with Ohio State linebacker Tommy Eichenberg, 14 tackles, 7 solos, 2 tackles for loss. Number 12, NC State, 41-10 over UConn. Another game as expected. Quarterback Devin Leary, 72.7%, 320, 4 touchdowns, a pick. I feel bad for what's his face? Jim Mora Jr. I mean, he doesn't have a quarterback. They've been switching him out like every other game, and neither can. like Zion Turner is so bad.
I don't know what you're talking about. Look at that
83.3%. But he's throwing for 3.9 yards per completion.
Yeah.
9 carries for 10 yards. So yeah, it's terrible. Hopefully Jim Mora can recruit a quarterback that's at least like a 3-star and that has some semblance of how to play college football.
Yeah.
I don't remember who the other guy they have is other than Zion, but yeah. I wonder if it's always like one of those what if things. Like if UConn would have won at Utah State, what would that have done, for their season? I mean, it would have been crazy. They would have been 1-0 instead of 0-1. And yeah, I think it would have changed their whole season. NC State, though, wide receiver Thayer Thomas having a good season, 5 receptions, 115 yards, a touchdown. And defensively, UConn defensive lineman Eric Watts, 4 tackles, 2 solos, 1.5 sacks, 1.5 tackles for loss, 2 QB hurries. UConn covered, plus 38.5, over 47.5. This was the big one this weekend. Kansas State, 41-34 over number 6 Oklahoma in Norman to boot. And it's another one where it's like, what more could Dylan Gabriel have done? Because the stat line is great. 66.7%, 330 yards, 4 touchdowns, 7 carries for 61 yards. The legs of Adrian Martinez, though, he ran all over Brent Venables' defense. 61.8% completion, 234 yards, 1 passing touchdown, but running the ball, like I said, 21 carries, 148 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I mean, where was this Adrian Martinez? Scott Frost is sitting there like, why didn't you do that when you were at Nebraska?
Yeah, I think Scott Frost has a little bit to blame for that. I'm not sure Adrian Martinez just magically got better going to, Kansas State without a little bit of maybe a head coaching boost there.
He did get better weapons at KSU as well. Because Deuce Vaughn, I love Deuce Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most underrated all-purpose players there is. 25 carries, 116 yards, 2 catches for 13 yards as well in this one. But yeah, Adrian Martinez, man. Again, Kansas State. Like, if you look at the Big 12 standings right now, it's kind of like what year are we in?
Yeah. That, like I said before, like it's
happening.
We're somehow in this weird Big 12 golden age. Everyone was counting the Big 12 out, once Oklahoma and Texas announced they're leaving. We get all these good teams now that are in the Big 12, and they're going to add BYU, Cincinnati, Houston.
Yeah, it's Kansas, and then Baylor, Kansas State, Texas Tech. That's your top 4 in the Big 12 right now.
And like I said, so that's that
Granted,
again, yeah, it's like, wow, like what's going on? But like, it feels like any team in the Big 12 right now could beat the other one on any given Saturday, which is incredibly fun.
yeah. Granted, Oklahoma State and TCU are both 3-0, but they haven't played a conference game yet, so that's why they're below those top four. But yeah, running back Eric Gray for Oklahoma, 16 carries, 114 yards, 7 receptions for 45 yards. Marvin Mims had a good day. So did tight end Braden Willis for Oklahoma, 5 catches, 41 yards, 2 touchdowns. Defensively, not a lot of stats, but I think I'm going to go with the bottom guy there, defensive lineman Jalen Redmond, 4 tackles, a solo, a half tackle for loss, pass deflection, 2 QB hurries. Yes, there is a guy with the last name Pickle on Kansas State.
Love it.
Jalen Pickle. KSU plus 13.5 over 53 easily. God, number 7 USC, 17-14 over Oregon State. Bro, the Beavers were so close. They had them. It was 14-10. And then USC scored with like a minute 30 to go. And Chance Nolan could not roll them down the field. I don't even know how Oregon State was in this game, considering Chance Nolan threw 4 interceptions. That's just crazy to lose by 3. Throw 4 picks. But yeah, I mean, the Beavers were there. They know they can compete at least if they can get to the Pac-12 championship game and USC's sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah, we build this, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. For me, I've been kind of just on both these teams. I said until one of them proves me wrong. I wanted to pick Oregon State really bad, but I felt like there was just too much talent at USC. But what's interesting is now we've kind of seen the other shoe has dropped for USC, right? Like we were waiting, like, okay, like, are they just kicking into high gear right away with this Lincoln Riley era, and they're just going to be like a college football playoff favorite right away? I don't think so. I still think they're going to need to claw their way in the Pac-12 when they start playing teams like Utah, Washington State, Oregon. I think you're going to see that, like, just pump the brakes on USC a little bit. They're going to be good again. Lincoln Riley's too good of a coach. Southern California is too much of a hotbed of talent for recruiting. And it's too much of a, target destination for transfer portal guys. But I still think it's going to be a couple seasons before you see them as playoff favorites. But, I mean, we don't know. They're still undefeated. And they still have a Heisman candidate in Caleb Williams at quarterback. So
2 Heisman candidates. Even though this was the first
True.
team to shut down Jordan Addison. 3 catches, 42 yards. He scored another touchdown, though.
And he still got a touchdown.
Which was the game winner to boot. So clutch factor there. But their other transfer, though, running back Travis Dye, he was most of their offense all night. 19 carries, 133 yards, a touchdown, 1 catch for 9 yards there. And defensively, I think I'm going to go with the top guy there, linebacker Eric Gentry for USC. 8 tackles, 4 solos, a half a tackle for loss, pass deflection, QB hurry, and a pick. One of the 4 off Chance Nolan. Oregon State did cover, though, plus 5.5, under 69.5 easily. Was supposed to be a high scoring game. Defense said no thanks. Number 19 BYU 38-24 over Wyoming. Jaron Hall, man.
He's him.
Yes.
He's him, dude. I've been watching Jaron Hall closely. He has not gotten nearly enough hype in the NFL draft community, and I'm not sure why. I feel like the perception is like there's no way that like BYU can go from like one top tier NFL quarterback prospect to another, right? Jaron Hall has an NFL arm, dude, and he's one decent game away for me of being a bona fide first round pick. Like, I watched the highlights of this game, and I'm like, look, there's like you can count on one hand how many guys can put the ball there.
Yeah. I think the detractors would probably say, well, look at the Oregon game. Struggled against an elite team. Not elite team, but a Power 5 team. And also, I don't know, do you know off the top of your head what is it the size? Is it a size thing? Is he short?
He's just, I'll look it up real quick while we're going through but I think he's
That's one thing.
that's small. I think.
But yeah, 81.3%, 337, 4 touchdowns, 8 carries, 17 yards as well.
He's 6'1", 205. So I mean, he's not
a little bit.
6'1". He's undersized, but like
he's literally though an inch short of what you want, right? As a minimum.
Right, exactly. And it's definitely not like I don't even think that's red flag territory.
Yeah, no.
Especially anymore in the league.
No, yeah. Kind of interesting. I had running back Miles Davis, never heard of him. But he was BYU's leading rusher on the day. 13 carries, 131 yards, 4 catches for 21 yards. Good job, I guess. Again, I had never heard of that kid, but and then Keanu Hill for BYU, 5 catches, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. Great to see Puka Nacua back. He played in this game. Just did not have enough stats to get on our stat sheet. And then defensively, gonna go with my guy, dude. I mean, we've had Wyoming a couple times now, and this man he gets on our stat sheet every time. Nose tackle Cole Godbout, 7 tackles, 4 of them solos, 2.5 tackles for loss, and QB hurry. I mean, yeah. If you're a 3-4 team, day 3 guy right there to start. I mean, who knows if he continues to impress on a team like Wyoming.
Yeah.
I mean, Wyoming did cover though, plus 21, over 50 easily. Number 13, Utah, 34-13 over Arizona State. Yeah, I was mad. I had ASU spread. Did not work out very well. But Cameron Rising, it wasn't the greatest game. I mean, watching the game itself, it looked like Utah was completely dominating. So I guess, but yeah, there was a lot of Arizona State had a lot of opportunities in this game to make it close. And it's kind of like watching the Bucks Packers game, which we'll get to talking about. But it's like every time they would make a step forward, it's just, taking 2 back, turn the ball over when they get into good field position. They had a couple times where they were in field goal range and they Emory Jones got sacked. Like, it looked like Russell Wilson last night. Emory Jones would just hold the ball and he wouldn't throw it. I'm like, just throw it. You're taking the sack. But yeah. So Emory Jones, a lot of work needed to be done with that Arizona State team. Obviously, they're going to get a new head coach next year. But yeah, Utah 3 in a row now after the week 1 loss to Florida. And defensively in this game, I'm going to go with the guy on the bottom, safety Cole Bishop, 3 tackles, a solo. a sack, tackle for loss, pass deflection, and a pick. I still don't know what to think about Utah, but
Yeah.
Utah covered -17, under 54. Final game here of FBS, number 18, Washington, 40-22 over Stanford. They also lost on this game. Stanford spread +14. They had their chances, many chances. And I felt bad for Tanner McKee because he made a lot of good plays. He was like Joe Burrow in his rookie year and last year. You know, like Tanner McKee got sacked 9 times in this game. And it was just like, I felt bad.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't do anything. He got strip sacked twice. There's the 2 fumbles there. And yeah, it was horrible. Michael Penix played well, 59.5%, 309, 2 touchdowns. Wayne Talapapa, also very good, 13 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. But then, look at the offense. Like Casey Filkins, 100 yards on 20 carries, 2 catches for 29 yards. They had a running game. They just couldn't protect in the passing game. So, despite wide receiver Michael Wilson having a great game, 6 catches, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. Another 100-yard receiver was for Washington, Rome Adunze, 8 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, tough loss for Stanford, but I'd like to just personally apologize to the Washington Huskies. In our preview of the Michigan State game, we kind of dogged them, man. And I mean, it's not like there was no basis for our dogging, but look, man, ever since then, they've been playing great. And shout out Michael Penix, man. Dude's looking lights out. I thought it was weird when he transferred from Indiana because like they'd been decently competitive in the East. They had success with him. And on paper, it didn't look like a major upgrade, but sometimes you just need a new place. And it seems like he's found that with Washington.
Yeah, I was hoping for the Indiana Michael Penix to come back in half so I could get Stanford to cover and I would hit my underdog spread parlay that lost because Stanford didn't cover. Did not happen. But defensively, I'm going with defensive lineman Braylon Trice for Washington, 5 tackles, 5 of them solos, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. It's just, again, sack city for Washington. It's kind of like the Eagles game on Sunday. Washington cover -14, over under 62 pushed.
All right, brother, man, I'm going to hop off.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. See ya.
Yeah. FCS game of the week, number 3, South Dakota State, 28-14 over number 6, Missouri State. Yeah, the Fighting Mark Warrens did not get it done. Bobby Petrino loses back-to-back games against Arkansas and South Dakota State now. But quarterback Mark Gronowski was electric, 75.9% completion, 319 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a fumble. Jason Shelley had turnover issues, 2 picks in this game, 65.5%, 185 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks, 10 carries for 10 yards. Running back Isaiah Davis for the Jacks was great, 20 carries, 83 yards, 1 7-yard reception as well. And then a couple 100-yard receivers here for South Dakota State. Tight end Zach Hines, 7 receptions, 127 yards, and a touchdown. Wide receiver Jaden Yankee, 8 receptions, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. His brother Jackson also had a great game, 6 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown. And then wide receiver Raylan Sharp for Missouri State, he scored a 67-yard touchdown reception as well. Safety Colby Herter and safety Matthew Durant had the interceptions for the Jackrabbits, and for the Missouri State defensive end Kevin Ellis recovered Mark Gronowski's fumble. NFL Eagles 24-8 domination over the Commanders. Jalen Hurts. Again, I told y'all this in the beginning of the season. The Eagles were going to be very, very good. They're going to win the Super Bowl, and I will stick to that because their defense showed up in this game. 62.9%, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9 carries, 20 yards. Defense had 9 sacks of Carson Wentz. He looked like crap. 58.1%, 211 yards, 3 carries, 22 yards, and a fumble. Devontae Smith was crazy, went crazy in this game. 8 receptions, 169 yards, a touchdown on 12 targets. A.J. Brown also had 10 targets, 5 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin for the Commanders, he had a 100-yard day, 6 catches, 102 yards on 9 targets there. Curtis Samuel also had 10 targets, 7 catches, 48 yards. And yeah, defensively, again, it was Sack City. 9 sacks, like I said, of Carson Wentz. I'm going to have to go with defensive end Brandon Graham, though. Stellar day for the Eagles. 6 tackles, 4 solos, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, pass deflection, and 5 QB hits on Wentz. Eagles covered -5.5, under 47.5. Panthers, first win of the year for Matt Rule and Carolina, 22-14 over the Saints. Jameis Winston, pretty good game other than the 2 picks, 61%, 353 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Baker struggled, 48%, 170 yards, a touchdown. And then Christian McCaffrey, I think he's back. He's had 2 nice games back-to-back now. I think CMC is back to his old self. Would like to see him get more involved in the passing game, though, however. 25 carries, 108 yards, 2 catches for 7 yards. Kamara fumbled the ball, led to a defensive touchdown for Carolina. Chris Olave, great game for the rookie, 9 catches, 147 yards on 13 targets. And then for New Orleans as well, wide receiver Traquan Smith, 4 catches, 105 yards, 5 targets. New wide receiver for the Panthers, Laviska Shenault Jr., he had a long touchdown, 2 catches, 90 yards, a touchdown on 2 targets there. And defensively, have to go with defensive end Marquise Haynes Sr. for the Panthers, 2 tackles, a solo, a QB hit, and a 44-yard fumble return for a touchdown. J.C. Horn, also great game for him. Panthers +2, under 41. Bears, oh my God, I hate the Bears. The Texans deserve to win this game, but did not make enough plays, and the collapses in the fourth quarter are becoming a trend now for Houston. So we have to figure that out, Davis Mills, and get this thing righted in the second half of games. But regardless, Davis Mills, 62.5%, 245 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Justin Fields sucks. I keep telling people this. The Bears have been lucky to win their 2 games that they have. They got the Niners in the slot with Trey Lance's first start of the season, and it was just terrible. The Niners left people wide open. There was another broken covered touchdown in this game, or at least got down to the 1-yard line or whatever. But yeah, it's just they've been getting so lucky, and I can't wait till they get crushed by someone. So yeah, 8 of 17 for Fields, 47.1%, 106 yards, 2 picks, 8 carries for 47 yards. He sucks. Dave Montgomery went down in this game, but Khalil Herbert stepped in nicely, 20 carries, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 12 yards. Dameon Pierce, a great game for the rookie, breakout kind of game for him. 20 carries, 80 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches for 21 yards. And then defensively, have to go with safety Jalen Petrie, the rookie 2nd-round pick out of Baylor. Amazing game for him. 8 tackles, 5 solos, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections, a QB hit, and 2 picks. Have to shout out, though, my guy Roquan Smith also had a great game. 16 tackles, 6 of them solos, 2 tackles for loss, a pass deflection, and a pick that actually set up the Bears' game-winning field goal. Bears -3 pushed over 39.5. Titans 24-22 over the only 0-3 team in the league, Raiders. Derek Carr, 59.1% completion, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 2 carries, 17 yards. But Ryan Tannehill was stellar in this game. 70.4%. Great bounce back by him. 264 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and a rushing touchdown. Derrick Henry was back to his old self. 20 carries, 85 yards, a touchdown, 5 catches for 58 yards on 6 targets there. Mac Hollins, who would have thought? I mean, no Hunter Renfrow in this game. Darren Waller was shut down for most of the game, as well as Devontae Adams, who did score, but did have 10 targets, only caught 5 of them. Mac Hollins, though, crazy. 8 catches, 158 yards, a touchdown on 10 targets, also threw a 4-yard pass. Great to see Robert Woods finally getting some looks. 4 receptions, 85 yards on 9 targets. Need it, Rob. I need it for my fantasy teams. Please and thank you. And defensively, Max Crosby in a losing effort. Crazy good game for him for the Raiders. 9 tackles, 5 solos, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, pass deflection, and a QB hit. Titans +2 over 45.5 by the hook. Colts upset the Chiefs 20-17 in Indy. Patrick Mahomes, 57.1%, 262 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, 4 carries for 26 yards. Matt Ryan, 73% uber efficient, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, did have a fumble, though. Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries, 71 yards, 3 catches for 20 yards on 5 targets. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, great stat line, 7 carries, 0 yards. He did score a touchdown, thankfully, from a fantasy team. 5 catches for 39 yards on 5 targets. Juju, your leading receiver in this game, 5 catches, 89 yards on 8 targets. And then the rookie tight end, Jelani Woods, out of Virginia, 2 catches, 13 yards, 2 touchdowns on 3 targets. And then defensively, I'm going to go with KC linebacker Nick Bolton, 9 tackles, 6 solos, 2 sacks, a tackle for loss, and 2 QB hits. Colts +4.5, under 51. Shocker probably of the day. Great matchup. Dolphins win over the Bills 21-19 in Miami. Josh Allen, very good in a loss, 66.7%, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 carries, 47 yards, and a fumble. But way too many throws for Josh Allen. 42 of 63 attempts. Crazy. Cannot throw that many passes each game and expect to win. Tua, good game for him. 13 of 18, 72.2%, 186 yards. A touchdown, was out a bit with the injury, possible concussion thing that ended up being a back thing. But no. Zach Moss, your leading rusher in this game, other than Josh Allen, 4 carries, 46 yards, 1 catch for 6 yards. Devin Singletary, while his rushing numbers were not good, he had a great receiving day. 9 carries, 13 yards on the ground, but 9 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown on 11 targets. A lot of dunk downs from Josh Allen. Jalen Waddle had a 100-yard day, 4 catches, 102 yards on 6 targets. Stephon Diggs had 11 targets in this one, 7 catches, 74 yards. River Craycraft scored another touchdown. I feel like he scores almost every game now. And defensively, I'm going to go with linebacker Melvin Ingram for the Dolphins. 3 tackles, 3 solos, 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 2 QB hits. Great addition in the offseason by GM Chris Greer. Dolphins, +4, under 54.5. A lot of unders in the NFL this weekend. But some overs too. Vikings, 28-24 over the Lions. Man, bro, the Lions should have won this game. They had many chances. Could have kicked. They missed a field goal that would have made it 27-21. And they just could not. They could have had a chance to win the game then later on. Could not get it done though. Jared Goff, 61%, 277 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Kirk Cousins leading the Vikings back, 58.5%, 260, 2 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook had a good day until he got injured. 17 carries, 96 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. Jamal Williams, crazy good day for him. DeAndre Swift injured in this one. 20 carries, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 20 yards there. Josh Reynolds, I have him on my fantasy team in a dynasty league. I need to start him, I guess. 6 catches for 96 yards on 10 targets. And defensively, I'm going to go with safety Josh Metellus for the Vikings. 11 tackles, 10 of them solos, 2 pass deflections, and a pick. Lions did cover, though, plus 6.5, over 51.5. By the hook. Ravens 37-26 over the Patriots. Mac Jones, not a good day. 68.8%, 321, but 3 picks, 5 carries, 31 yards, and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson continues to light it up. 62.1%, 218 yards, 4 more passing touchdowns, a pick, 11 carries, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Ramondre Stevenson, your leading rusher in the game for the Patriots, 12 carries, 73 yards, a touchdown, 4 catches, 28 yards on 5 targets. And crazy game for wide receiver Devontae Parker. This is what they wanted to see when they acquired him from the Dolphins in the offseason. 5 receptions, 156 yards, 10 targets. Mark Andrews also having a great game. Tight end for the Ravens, 8 receptions, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 13 targets. Funny that he had 89 yards. That's his number. Devin Duvernay scored another touchdown. Great start to the season for him. And then how about the game for defensive end Dietrich Wise Jr. for the Patriots? 6 tackles, 5 solos, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 QB hits. Possible, defensive player of the week performance there for the AFC. Ravens cover minus 2.5, over 45, easy. Bengals first win of the season, 27-12 over the Jets. Joe Flacco, 53.8%, 285 yards, but 2 picks and 2 fumbles. Not going to win with those 4 turnovers there. Joe Burrow was great, 63.9%, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers for them. Samaje Perine led the game in rushing, 9 carries, 47 yards, 2 catches, 14 yards, and a touchdown for Cincy. Breece Hall, 11 targets receiving, 8 carries, 39 yards on the ground, 6 catches, 53 yards, 11 targets. Tyler Boyd, 100-yard day for him, 4 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. Wide receiver Garrett Wilson, the rookie, had 10 targets, 6 catches for 60 yards. Great game for tight end Tyler Conklin, free agent addition from Minnesota this offseason, 8 catches, 84 yards on 8 targets. And then wide receiver Elijah Moore also having 10 targets for the Jets, 4 catches, 49 yards. Jamar Chase had 10 targets for the Bengals too, 6 catches, 29 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. Defensively, have to go with defensive end Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals. Great game for him. 4 tackles, 2 of them solos, 2.5 sacks, and 4 QB hits on Flacco. Bengals cover minus 6.5, under 46. Jags blowing out the Chargers in LA, 38-10. Justin Herbert, first game back with that rib cartilage fracture. Tough game for him. 55.6%, 297 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and a fumble. Trevor Lawrence was pristine, 71.8% completion, 262 yards, and 3 touchdowns. James Robinson, 100-yard day for him, 17 carries, 100 yards, even 1 touchdown, 3 catches for 16 yards. Sony Michel actually led the way in rushing for the Chargers, not Austin Eckler. 5 carries, 22 yards, 1 catch for 9 yards for him. Josh Palmer, 1 yard short, shy of a 100-yard day, 6 catches, 99 yards on 9 targets. And wide receiver Zay Jones for the Jags had 11 targets on the day, 10 catches, 85 yards, and a score. Christian Kirk had a great day. Marvin Jones scored a touchdown as well. So did Mike Williams on his lone reception. Defensively, have to go with the rookie linebacker Devin Lloyd for the Jags. 7 tackles, 5 solos, 3 pass deflections, and a pick. Great game for him. Jags +3 over 42. Rams 20-12 over the Cards. Kyler Murray 63.8%, 314 yards, 37 of 58. A lot of throws for Kyler in this game. Quarterback Matthew Stafford for the Rams, 18-25, 72%, 249 yards. No touchdowns for either quarterback. Cam Akers, great game for him. 12 carries, 61 yards, a touchdown, and a fumble. James Conner not very effective in this one. But Marquise Brown was 14 catches, 140 yards on 17 targets. Wide receiver Greg Dortch for the Cardinals also getting 10 targets, 9 catches for 80 yards there. Ben Skoranek actually led the game in receiving yards for the Rams, 4 catches, 66 yards on 4 targets. And then Cooper Kupp, what does he do? He scores touchdowns, 4 catches, 44 yards, 6 targets, and a 20-yard rushing touchdown. Defensively, I'm going to go with defensive tackle Aaron Donald for the Rams, 6 tackles, 4 solos, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a QB hit. Rams cover -3.5, under 48.5. Falcons get their first win of the season, 27-23 over the Seahawks in Seattle. Geno Smith was great despite the loss, 72.7%, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Marcus Mariota, 65%, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, a pick, a rushing touchdown, and a fumble. Cordell Patterson, great game for him for Atlanta, 17 carries, 141 yards, a touchdown, and a 12-yard reception. Tight end Kyle Pitts, the leading receiver in the game, 5 catches, 87 yards on 8 targets. Wide receiver Tyler Lockett for the Seahawks, 9 catches, 76 yards. He had 11 targets. Wide receiver DK Metcalf, 5 catches, 64 yards, a touchdown. He had 12 targets. Drake London scored a touchdown. So did tight end Will Dissly. And then defensively, I'm going to go with defensive end Grady Jarrett for Atlanta, 5 tackles, 4 solos, a sack, 3 tackles for loss, and a QB hit. Falcons +1 over 43.5. Packers, close one, 14-12 over the Bucks. Tom Brady, 73.8%, 271 yards, a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers, 77.1%, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Crazy, thought the Packers were going to roll in this one. Got off to a 14-0 start, or 14-3 start. Just rolled down the field on their opening 2 drives. And the Bucks defense stood pat after that, giving them opportunities to win the game left and right. The Bucks offense stumbling twice with fumbles from Russell Gage and Brashad Perriman as well to end the first half there. But Brady almost had him. He almost brought him back, and I was thankful he at least scored a touchdown to cover the teaser at +6.5. But yeah, Russell Gage, leading receiver in this game, 12 catches, 87 yards, a touchdown on 13 targets, did have a fumble, however. Aaron Jones, your leading rusher in the game, 12 carries, 36 yards, a fumble, 3 catches, 11 yards. And then how about the breakout game for wide receiver Romeo Dobbs? My brother Nick Russo called that one, texted me about it before the game, 8 catches, 73 yards, a touchdown on 8 targets. And defensively, have to go with defensive tackle Kenny Clark for the Packers, 4 tackles, 3 solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 QB hits on Tom. Packers +1.5, under 42. Sunday Night Football was a drag. Broncos win it 11-10 over the 49ers. Jimmy G, 62.1%, 211 yards, a touchdown, a pick, a fumble, and a safety. Props to Dan Orlovsky for getting that tweet out very quickly after Jimmy G stepped out of the back of the end zone for the Broncos safety. Quarterback Russell Wilson, 60.6%, 184 yards, 6 carries, 17 yards. Jeff Wilson Jr., your leading rusher in the game, 12 carries, 75 yards, a fumble that won the game for Denver, and 3 receptions for 31 yards. Cortland Sutton, your leading receiver in the game for the Broncos, 8 catches, 97 yards on 10 targets. And a lot of good defensive stats. Got to go with defensive end Nick Bosa for the Niners, however. 2 tackles, 1 solo, a sack, tackle for loss, 4 QB hits on Russell Wilson. Broncos +1.5, under 45 easily. NCAA news, Georgia Tech. I mentioned this earlier. They have fired head coach Jeff Collins after 3+ seasons. 10-28 overall. Started out 1-3 this year. 7-19 in the ACC. NFL news. Starting off with some general stuff here. The interesting story from the offseason: 49ers. Jimmy G has been the talk of the Niners so far, with him coming in to replace Trey Lance after the injury, but yeah, they actually had a trade in place with the Washington Commanders. But Jimmy G decided to have shoulder surgery, and the Commanders backed out at that point. So, yeah, crazy that he could have been a Washington Commander, and then we're like, where was Carson Wentz going to go? We have the NFL Super Bowl 57 halftime show performer. It will be Rihanna. So get y'all's umbrellas out. And I think it should be another great show. I love that they're getting some current people, out there instead of they had the old people, rest in peace, Prince, but they had a lot of old people in my childhood Super Bowls. I think they're finally understanding the audience wants some more current music. Also, the NFL announcing the NFL Pro Bowl is no longer the game itself, the tackle game. There will be a flag football game and other skills competition games. I'm annoyed. I hate that they took this away. It's an all-star event. Guys really don't care about it because it's at the end of the season, and the guys that are playing in the Super Bowl don't play in it anymore. So it makes, I don't know, maybe they should go the route of the other leagues and put it in the middle of the schedule. I don't know if that would change anything, they in terms of bye weeks and whatnot, but yeah, I mean, it's just tough to not see a tackle football game anymore. Even though, it got crazy. People just scoot around a lot, and they still do. I don't like the way that the Pro Bowl has progressed in recent years. So, yeah. Injuries. Browns just today. Defensive end Myles Garrett. He was injured in a single car crash. Suffered non-life-threatening injuries, thankfully. So we'll have to see his status coming up this weekend as they go to Atlanta. Jets could have quarterback Zach Wilson back this week against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. The doctors had the final say, but Robert Saleh does expect Zach Wilson to be back this week. Vikings running back Dalvin Cook, he dislocated his shoulder again yesterday, as it has before. He has an unrepaired labral tear. So the hope is that he can just wear a harness and play next week. He is considered day-to-day, however. Patriots quarterback Mac Jones, he has a high ankle sprain. It's a severe high ankle sprain. So more than likely, we are not going to see Mac Jones play this week. It's going to be Brian Hoyer, I would assume. I am rooting for Bailey Zappi to play because I want the Zapster to be able to show what he can do. But Billy B is probably going to go with his guy. Third tour of duty with New England, Brian Hoyer. 49ers left tackle Trent Williams. He has a high ankle sprain, out 4 to 6 weeks. Big news for the Niners and Jimmy G there, trying to protect his blind side. One of the best left tackles in the game, out 4 to 6 weeks. Lions, they lost safety Tracy Walker for the season. He has torn his Achilles. He is done. Will return in 2023. Same thing can be said for Chargers left tackle Rashawn Slater. He is done for the year. Ruptured biceps tendon. So terrible news again for a great young player there in LA. Also with the Chargers, pass rusher Joey Bosa considered week to week. He has a severe groin injury, Coach Brandon Staley said. So we'll have to wait and see how many weeks it is that Bosa is out. But luckily it's not season ending. Lions running back DeAndre Swift, he has a shoulder sprain, won't have to get surgery, but could be out until at least after their bye, which is week 6. More than likely going to miss the games against the Seahawks and the Patriots. And then finally, Bills rookie corner Christian Benford. He has a fractured hand. He's going to miss some time. Just another injury to the Bills secondary. Tre'Davious White already on the PUP list, going to come back week 5. But yeah, they're having a hard time keeping their corners and their secondary guys healthy right now in Buffalo. Speaking of Bills secondary players, safety Micah Hyde, he is out for the year. Neck injury. Big blow to their secondary. Like I said, Benford now out, Hyde. They're not going to have White for this week. Week 4 is the last week. He eligible to come back next week. So it's very thin, and they need Jordan Poyer to be healthy because they don't have much in terms of depth in the secondary. Packers, Titans left tackle Taylor Lewan. He is also out for the year, knee injury. Not sure if that's an ACL or what, but it is season ending for Taylor Lewan. Packers wide receiver Sammy Watkins, he landed on IR. He has a hamstring injury, out 4 weeks. Rams wide receiver Van Jefferson also placed on IR with a knee injury. Ins and outs for tonight's games. Cowboys have a bunch of guys. That just got announced, the inactives for the game. Actives and actives. Tight end Dalton Schultz and wide receiver Michael Gallup for the Cowboys both are out. Linebacker Micah Parsons, though, dealing with an illness all week, he is good to go, expected to play. Also in for the Giants, pass rushers Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari. They are both active. And then finally, just a transaction. Chiefs, they released kicker Matt Amendola. Terrible game for him against the Colts. Missed an extra point and 2 field goals. So they are looking for another kicker unless Harrison Butker can come back this week. Before we get to the pick standings, NCAA preview, we do have a game in between our shows this week on Thursday. Utah State 1-3 at number 19 BYU, who is 3-1. Cougars getting 24 at home. I expect them to cover that. They should have a nice game against Utah State. Over under is 61.5. I'm going to hit the over button on that one. That is 8 p.m. on ESPN Thursday night. Pick standings, we all went 2-1 last week, even with Peter lone wolfing the Vikings on Monday and the Browns on Thursday. He got us on Thursday. We got him on Monday, and we all picked the Bills on the first game on Monday. So everyone went 2-1. Logan and I still lead the way at 4-2, 1 game up on Mark and Peter. So Monday night in a little bit here, about an hour and 15 minutes here. The Cowboys at the Giants. Brian Daboll's trying to become just the second team in the NFC to stay undefeated through 3 weeks. Peter is going with the Giants. I do need Saquon to have quite a bit of fantasy points. 22 in my law school league, 8 in my free league, and then 42 if he wants to do that in my dynasty league. So yeah, need a lot from Saquon tonight, but also have the Cowboys defense in one of my leagues. So, but I'm facing the Cowboys D in a different league. So yeah, I got a lot of conundrums, but I believe Saquon will do a lot. The Cowboys defense is so good, and they have been so good this season through 2 games. Cooper Rush can get it done offensively. As much as I hate picking the Cowboys, I do need them to win to give the Eagles sole possession of first place in the NFC East. So gonna go for the Cowboys tonight. It's 3-1. Peter is lone wolfing the G-men at home. Giants 1-point favorites tonight. Over under 39. I am on the under 39.5 crew. So give me that. And that is at 8:15 ABC, ESPN, and ESPN Plus. Thursday night football, Dolphins at the Bengals. The baby Bengals getting 3 at home. Mark lone wolfing the Bengals here. We are all, Peter, Logan, and I, all on the Dolphins. Look, the Fins have been crazy good this year. As long as Tua is the quarterback going into this game, I think the Bengals defense is not good enough to stop that passing attack. And they got a lot out of Chase Edmonds last week against Buffalo as well. So I think they can continue to run the game, offset that passing game. I think they will be a tough team in the AFC this year. And their defense. It's very good. I think they have the secondary to hold up against the Bengals receivers. and the pass rush, Melvin Ingram, Emmanuel Ogbah, etc., to go up against this Bengals offensive line. So yeah, this probably changes if Tua is out. But like I tell my guys when they ask me to change their picks, once the show happens, we can't change our picks. So we're gonna ride with Miami on Thursday, even though it's still a couple days away here. But the over-under is 47.5. I'm going to go with the over in that game. 8:15 Prime Video. Next week, we'll be back on Monday talking NFL Week 4. We'll preview the Thursday night game. Colts at the Broncos, the Manning Bowl, Week 5. And then we'll also look at the Monday night Week 4 ending game, NFC West battle, Rams at the Niners. So that's the show for today. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, at FAA_bets. Also on Twitter, we're gonna get that figured out. We're 4-8-1, I believe, or something like that. So we'll get it figured out though. And then also our website, FAApodcast.com. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts,